All right, everyone, good morning. Welcome to the quarterly meeting of the Domestic Violence State Coordinating Council, which is also open to the public. So my name is Brooke Hoopenthal, and I'm happy to welcome any guests who have joined us this morning. Today is March 1st, 2024, and it is approximately 10 a.m. We will start by calling the roll by Secretary Fox. And as a reminder, please unmute yourself to let her know your attendance by saying either here or present.
Very good. Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning to everyone. Madam Chair, if it pleases the council, we do have some special guests on this morning that we could recognize first. We have Sharon Roberson, who is a friend of the Tennessee Coalition to End Domestic and Sexual Violence. She is the CEO of the YWCA of Nashville and Middle Tennessee. She's on with us this morning, along with her communications director, Michelle. So just wanted to make sure that we gave a shout out to both of them.
Thank you, Tina.
You're welcome. We also have our volunteer, one of our newest volunteers with the coalition, Malika. Malika is going to just do a brief introduction of herself. Malika, we're so excited to have her as our newest volunteer.
Hi, everyone. It's so nice to meet you. My name is Malika. I am currently in my senior year at Vanderbilt University. And so over the years, I've done a lot in advocacy for both interpersonal violence and sexual violence. And so I'm really happy to be here and learn more. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. And we always welcome our dear friend, Becky Bullard, who is with the Office of Family Safety. And she also supports the important work that we do at the coalition. And then finally, I think we have Heather Michelle, who is our lobbyist. We will be hearing from her here shortly. Do we have any other guests that we have not recognized at this point? Any other guests? All right, here is the official roll call. Vice Chair Melanie Bean, she is not with us on this morning. She had court. If you hear your name, just say here or present, please. Council Member Michelle Castillo Young.
Here.
Council Member Chelsea Curtis.
Present.
Council Member Judge Dalton. She had a deposition and she is not able to join us on this morning. Council Member Derisha Davis is not able to join us on this morning. However, she did send her designee. Council Member Sarah Davis. Councilmember Sarah Davis. Councilmember Representative Andrew Farmer. Councilmember Farmer. Councilmember Lena Frog.
Here.
Thank you, Lena. Our chair, Brooke Hoopenthal, is present. Councilmember Sue Jones. Councilmember Sue Jones. I know she's here.
It looks like her audio is not working.
Okay.
Yes, but we see she is present. Yeah, I see you waving your hand. Okay.
Thank you, Madam
Yeah.
Chair. Councilmember Regina McDevitt.
I'm present.
Thank you. Councilmember Macmillan, Judge Macmillan. He did send a note that he will not be here on this morning. Councilmember Stacy Miller.
Present.
Councilmember Ashley Parker.
Here.
Councilmember D. Reynolds. Councilmember Reynolds. Councilmember Kendra Reeves.
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Russell, Sheriff Ray Russell. Councilmember Russell. Councilmember Judge Jenny Scott.
Present.
Thank you, Judge. Councilmember Elena Tate. She did send a note that she had to take her son to the medical facility on today, and so she may be able to join us later. Councilmember Bobby Van. Councilmember Van. Councilmember Vess. Councilmember
Here.
Chief. Thank you, Chief. And Councilmember Senator Wiley. Councilmember Wiley. All right, and of course, I am here. Okay, Madam Chair, that concludes the roll call for this morning.
Thank you, Secretary Fox. Do we have a quorum for today?
Yes, we do have a quorum. Thank you.
Yes. As a reminder, Secretary Fox did send the minutes out from our last meeting on February 21st, 2024. And does anyone have any corrections to those minutes? If there are no corrections, the minutes are approved as they were distributed. Next on the agenda are the committee reports. And as a reminder, when making any motions, please identify yourself so that our secretary can have an accurate account of who's making them, as well as all of the seconds. So at first is the executive committee report, and I will be talking about it today. As a reminder, I serve as the chair of the committee, and Melanie Bean is our vice chair, and Tina Fox is our secretary. The executive committee meets quarterly to prepare for our general body meeting, and we met most recently on Friday, February 16th, 2024 at 11 a.m. And we discussed several different items. First was the new format for the quarterly meetings. And we talked about this at our last quarterly meeting about having professional highlights. And so this is starting today. Our future quarterly meetings will include an approximate 5 to 10 minute professional highlight section. And this will allow our various council members to share the information about themselves, their agency, their work on preventing domestic violence within the state. And today we have Regina McDevitt, who will present at the meeting today. Today, we are also going to have a legislative update. We have the honor of having Heather Michelle here, and she is going to provide information on current legislation impacting domestic violence in the state. We also discussed an assistant that the Tennessee Coalition is requesting, specifically Secretary Fox. And Secretary Fox did initiate some discussions with the General Assembly about getting funding for a new assistant, but the General Assembly will wrap up decisions in March of 2024. So we will have some more information by the end of the month regarding whether or not we can obtain an assistant for Tina. We also have a few updates on the public comments, specifically first the affidavit to dispossession of firearms. We received this public comment and addressed it during our last quarterly meeting. However, with the impending U.S. Supreme Court case, United States versus Rahimi, will likely address or dispose of the issue. So we are going to hold off on responding to that public comment until once that opinion comes out. We also talked about an anonymous public comment we received in December 2023. And we stated that we needed some more information on the complaint before addressing it. However, the anonymous complainant followed up with us and said that there was the issue was resolved and there's no longer needs to be an official statement or addressed by our counsel. So we will hold off on responding to that comment. We also talked about the Kansas Family Peace Initiative, specifically the River of Cruelty model for BIP programs. And this was highly recommended by the Office of Family Safety. We've begun to explore potential opportunities for Secretary Fox to attend a training and to inquire on how to implement this model within Tennessee. So we will continue to keep you updated on that. We also have an upcoming nominating committee, and that will be in May. So if anyone is interested in joining the executive committee, please join us in that meeting. We will also take the minutes from that meeting and give it to the governor as well. So we'll talk more about the nominating committee meeting later on. Also, next year marks the 30th anniversary of the council, and so we want to start initiating some conversations on ideas on how to celebrate. So we wanted to just kind of start early, and if anyone has any ideas on what you would like to do to commemorate the 30th anniversary, please reach out and let us know. We also have a few conferences coming up relevant. The BIPS annual conference that will be on June 6th to 7th this year. This conference is open to all council members, and registration will begin next month. So if you're interested, please let us know, and we'd be happy to help you out with that information. The National Domestic Violence Conference is also on September 15th through the 17th in this year, and it's going to be in Chicago. We just want to put it on everyone's radar in case you're interested in attending that as well. Finally, we have a few members whose terms are expiring as of June 30th. And we've sent emails out to everyone whose terms are expiring, just to make sure that we get their respective agencies regarding reappointment process. So if you haven't received an email, your terms are not up, but we will keep you apprised of the upcoming appointments. And as a reminder, our next quarterly meeting will occur on May 4th at 11 a.m. So, the executive committee will meet on May 4th. And finally, just as a reminder, we also are going to be holding an election after committee meetings are done. The Assistant Secretary Treasurer position, Deb Faulkner, who previously held that, she resigned last fall, and so she was replaced by Chief Bess. We will have an election for the appointment, and that will be the next item on our agenda. Does anyone have any questions, comments about the executive committee meeting? All right, if there are no questions, we're going to go ahead and move to the Certification and Monitoring Committee. They met this morning in a separate Zoom meeting. And so now we will hear from our Certification and Monitoring Chair, Stacy Miller. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Normally we have a pretty long agenda, but today our program or our committee report is going to be pretty quick. So I'm going to go through that. Please do not feel shy on making motions or seconds so that we can speed up the time as necessary. Currently, we have 28 certified battery intervention programs that serve 65 counties across Tennessee. This month, we had 2 programs that were monitored for recertification. The first program I'd like to talk about today is First Tennessee Human Resource Agency. They're in Johnson City, serving Johnson, Washington, Carter, Greene, and Sullivan counties. They've submitted all necessary documents, including their $200 payment for recertification. The committee reviewed the paperwork and discussed the program. The program was virtually monitored on February 7th of 2024 by Tina Fox. After discussion, the committee agreed to recommend First Tennessee Human Resource Agency for recertification, and we request a motion for approval for that to be done.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
This is Lena Frog, and I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second motion?
I second.
Second motion.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded. And with that, Secretary Fox, we are ready for a vote.
Thank you, Madam Chair. All in favor, you can raise your hand, your physical hand, and or you can use the raise hand symbol for approval for First Tennessee. And for those who are members and you're not on camera, you have to be able to be seen in order to raise your hand. So I did get yours, Kendra. Kendra is having some complications with her video. Any other council members? I have not heard from Councilmember Chelsea Curtis, Councilmember Sarah Davis in terms of this vote.
I'll abstain.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Curtis. Councilmember Sarah Davis. Thank you, Councilmember Davis. All right, Madam Chair, that concludes the vote. It has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Stacy. Oh, Stacy, you're on mute.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our next program is Healing the Home in Knoxville, serving Knox County. They have submitted all necessary documents, including the $200 payment for recertification. The committee reviewed their paperwork and discussed their program this morning. The program was monitored on February 5th by Tina Fox, and after discussion, the committee agreed to recommend Heal the Home for recertification, and we're requesting a motion from the council to do so.
Do I hear a motion?
Motion. Motion.
Do we have a second motion?
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded. And with that, Secretary Fox, we're ready for a vote. Maybe I'm not sure if it would be easier to run through audio of the present members, if that would work. I know it might take a little bit longer, but just so we can make sure we have everyone.
Yes, ma'am, that would work. Councilmember Parker, how do you vote?
I approve.
Thank you. Madam Chair,
I approve.
Councilmember Frog,
Approve.
Councilmember Vest. He made the motion. Councilmember Sue Jones. Councilmember Scott.
I approve.
Thank you. Councilmember McDevitt. Okay. Thank you. All right. Councilmember Sarah Davis.
I approve.
Thank you. Councilmember Curtis, Chelsea Curtis.
Present, not voting.
Thank you. Councilmember Reeves.
Approve.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Michelle Castillo Young.
Approve.
Very good. Thank you. I think that's all of the council members. Councilmember Miller.
Approve.
Very good. I think, Madam Chair, that's all the council members who are present and have voted.
Thank you very much. And with that, the motion is approved.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
The next thing would be upcoming recertifications. We have two programs that are required to be recertified in this next cycle, and that is Alternative Counseling Solutions serving Davidson, Rutherford, and Williamson counties, as well as the Sheriff's Anti-Violence Effort SAVE serving Davidson County. And Secretary Fox will get the dates and times to the Certification and Monitoring Committee. If anybody is interested in joining Ms. Fox and would like to observe a program and assist in monitoring those programs, please reach out to her. She is always very welcoming and always requesting an extra set of eyes on these programs that we monitor. You do not have to be on the Certification and Monitoring Committee to be able to assist in monitoring that program, those programs. Next, we want to talk about some programs that have closed. Correctional Management Services, CMS, serving Davidson County, is not providing BIP services as of February 20th, 2024. CMS is providing DUI and victim impact classes in their Murray County office only. The Davidson County Courts and Probation Services have been made aware to no longer refer offenders to those programs. We have two new programs on the horizon. Davidson County and Dyer County. I spent this week speaking to the Dyer County program and getting some of their foundation laid, building those relationships with victim services. And so we will update you as we get more information from those programs. The Standards and Rules Committee met, and we have been addressing some of the outdated standards there. Chairman Brooke Huppenthal took it by the horns and has absolutely done a fantastic job going through meticulously, looking at everything to make sure that we are on the forefront of current trends research, and that we're updating that information accordingly. That committee will be meeting again, I believe it's on April 5th. If anybody would like to join us for that, we would love to have you. But again, thank you so much to our chair, Brooke, and to Tina Fox, who have spearheaded this. Sarah was there, just their brilliance has just been absolutely golden. So thank you so much for your hard work on this already. And we'll continue to update those standards. We continue to have our BIP monthly trainings. Those are on the fourth Wednesday of every month. Those are held virtually. We have approximately anywhere from 22 to 50 attendees each particular month on different topics on facilitating and best practices. This week, the topic was sexual violence and sexual health in batter intervention. And so Ms. Fox has sent out those slides already to the programs after that. There's wonderful topics. It's a lunchtime style Zoom, so it's usually 45 minutes. So if you could jump on there, please do so. But it's on the fourth Wednesday of every month. We have our annual BIPS conference locked in and set. It is going to be June 7th, 6th and 7th. It's going to be on the, in Nashville. Refresh, Renew, and Recharge, the 21st Century BIPS. And so we will have registration for that April 15th through the 31st. Several of you attended last year. We'd love to have you back. If you can't attend both days, drop in and try to catch one of those days. It's extremely informative. It's extremely beneficial. And the programs that helps with, in my opinion, their accountability as well as a program. When they see council members there and they see you there, they know that realistically we as a council are holding them accountable so that they can hold their offenders accountable. Other than that, that is all I have, Madam Chair. I thank you very much for your time and thank you, council members.
Thank you very much, Stacy. We really appreciate all the work that you've been doing on victim safety and offender accountability. And
Madam Chair, if I may, please.
yes, of course.
Council, we do want to recognize Stacy. Stacy has been elected as the board chair of the Tennessee Coalition to End Domestic and Sexual Violence. So congratulations to you, Madam Chair. We appreciate all the work that you have done over the years and all the work that you are doing. So we do appreciate you. So just wanted to make that. And then secondly, Sarah Davis will provide the official report from the Standards and Rules Committee. So thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me to interject there. Thank you.
No
Yes.
worries. Oh, go ahead. Sarah.
Okay, so we, the Standards and Rules Committee, we had our, I guess, first meeting regarding the issues that were brought up in the last Domestic Violence State Coordinating Council meeting regarding just kind of updating the BIP standards in regards to, you know, just issues regarding, you know, being more inclusive, but also there were some things that we kind of looked at that didn't really necessarily have to do with that just needed to be updated regarding personnel and training. I would agree with Stacy that Brooke and also the Office of Family Safety did a lot of work meticulously, as she stated, going through all of the BIP standards, and even the smallest little edits were made, and we're still working on it. It's not done. And as soon as we have the capability of getting it all completed, we will put it out to the whole council and for approval. But some of the issues that we addressed, and thank you so much, Ashley, for being our secretary and taking minutes from our meeting that was on February 2nd, is that there were several sections where we wanted to be more inclusive regarding, instead of saying just gay or lesbian, saying LGBTQ plus, so that we are kind of capturing all possible non-traditional categories of victims. And also we were updating in several sections the idea that batters intervention programs need to have the capability to provide services and or training for batters regarding this issue, in addition to just generalized stereotypes regarding gender and race. Also, we wanted to have some program ideas that we're still working on to put forward to the BIPs regarding inclusivity on those other categories. So in addition to that, as I mentioned, there was a section regarding the personnel and training standards regarding people that are allowed to facilitate the batterers intervention programs. And it had initially stated former batterers should not be allowed to facilitate the programs, but we all kind of agreed that, you know, who's the one that's going to determine who's a former batterer. And so we tried to kind of make that language a little bit more specific so that the batterers intervention programs would really be able to determine who we're talking about. So we decided that we were going to make it former convicted batterers, and we talked about having background checks, FBI fingerprint background checks to determine if someone is actually has a prior conviction or has been a convicted and what they've been convicted of. And, you know, we're kind of talking about what does it mean to be a convicted batterer? You know, are you convicted of domestic assault, or is it stalking? Is it vandalism? I mean, as we all know, you know, being a convicted batterer could come in many categories. So we're kind of working on that language. And also we added the idea that perhaps even if you were a convicted batterer, if it was something that was investigated and was old and you have got treatment and that you have a real interest in trying to give back and help as a facilitator in the program, that might be acceptable if it was brought to the council. So those are some of the issues that we're kind of dealing with and working on. We have another meeting scheduled. I have it is April 12th, but Stacy, I thought you said April 5th. Stacy, am I wrong about that?
Sarah, I just went based on what my recollection was. I haven't looked up the actual date. so
Okay, I
please
think our
forgive me
next
if I'm wrong.
meeting
I
is
will
April
correct that to the
12th.
5th on my paperwork real quick.
It's April the 12th.
Yeah, at 1:30.
Yeah.
So you know, we had a lot of people on this committee and it was a really active meeting, and I really appreciate everyone being present and helping out with that. And we look forward to presenting our final edits to the whole council. So that's really all that I have to say, and just thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Sarah. We appreciate that update. And yeah, thank you for all the participants in the meeting. Does anyone have any questions for the Rules Committee?
I don't have a question, Madam Chair. I do have a comment. I want to say
Okay.
thank you to Sarah Davis, who literally was voluntold, who accepted this position. And so we appreciate that, Sarah. Additionally, in the Certification and Monitoring Committee meeting, we did talk really briefly about getting the observation form that we use for monitoring to be aligned with the standards and rules. And so we'll make sure that we have that in discussion as well on April the 12th. So thank you. Because right now they're not matching. Okay, as I keep reading through those standards and reading through the observation form, they need to match. They need to be in alignment with each other. And so we'll make sure to have that. In fact, Sarah, I get that to you before the meeting so that you can have that.
Yes, and I think we did bring that up in the meeting, but we were too busy, but didn't get around to it.
Yeah, so once the Rules Committee, we reach a finalization point, we would definitely want to make sure that we update all of that for you all. So thank you again, Sarah. Really, really appreciate it. Next, we're going to have the Emerging Issues and Orders of Protection Committee chat today. We're going to hear from the chair, Michelle Consiglio Young. And we met earlier this morning, right before the quarterly meeting. So Michelle, go ahead and give us an update on that.
Thanks, Brooke. Yes, so our committee met this morning at 9, and we first went over a few proposed legislative bills that are out there that may impact the forms and different other aspects of our committee and items that the AOC handles within the domestic violence realm. But I'm not going to go over those because you're going to hear from Heather in just a moment about most of those, I'm sure. So the one action item that we did have was we had Whitney Blanton had brought up an issue regarding our order protection petition and asked if there would be a way to indicate mandatory reporting on those forms. So as we know, there are requirements in the code for mandatory reporting of elder or child abuse. And there is no place on the order protection forms that indicate whether that has occurred or is a part of the petition that was filed. So after we discussed it, and I had looked at the code prior to our meeting, because typically what we do, at the AOC is we really stick very strictly with what's required in the code as far as what's included on the order protection forms. But because those mandatory reporting provisions are also in the code, it does make sense that that should be added and have some indication on the form of whether or not that happened. So we discussed and approved adding language similar, something like adding something pursuant to the relevant TCA codes regarding the mandatory reporting if there is alleged child abuse or elder abuse, listing the APS and CPS report numbers. So I'm going to refine that and put it and figure out how it'll best fit on the form. But that's what we had discussed and approved as being added to the form. And I will do that for the next time that we release updated forms, which typically are July 1 of the year after legislative session. The only exception to that will be the lifetime order protection forms, because there is a bill, and I know Heather hit this out there right now, that is likely to pass adjusting that form, and that those changes will go into effect upon becoming law and not on July 1. So we will have to get those form updates out whenever that bill is signed by the governor. So that's our change. That's our addition to the forms, and that's my report.
Thank you very much, Michelle. We appreciate it. And does anyone have any questions for Emerging Issues and Orders of Protection Committee?
I do have a question, and I don't know if this is the right forum for this, but I recently had a trial on an aggravated stalking a few weeks ago, and one of the things that became really apparent during the course of this trial is that my victim had gotten, she had filed for divorce, and I think it was first in Benton County, and then she got an order of protection, and she got an ex parte order of protection in Benton County. And as with so many of our jurisdictions, when I know in Rutherford County we do this, and I hate it. They leave these order protections pending. They don't grant them initially. They merge them with the Chancery or Circuit Court divorces, and then they leave them open pending the divorce. And my victim her divorce was pending for 1.5 years. And during that time period, she got 3 different orders of protection. The defendant continued to stalk her during the entire time that the divorce was pending. And every time she would call the police, and the stalking was, pretty bad stuff in my opinion, not just the texting and the phone calls, but he was putting trackers on her car, following her to her work, and following her boyfriend and pulling guns on him. And it was like a bad case in my opinion. And every time she would call the police, because she lived in, she moved to Murfreesboro, but she lived in Henry County and Benton County, and the defendant lived in Henry County. And wherever she would go, she would call the police, and they could never find this order because it was still ex parte and it had been consolidated with the divorce. And so what we had and what we ended up having to use during the trial was just these court orders from the divorce court, where the judge in the divorce court would just say, hey, we're going to, pending further orders of this court, the order of protection, the temporary order of protection is going to remain in place. But the problem for my victim was that whenever she would call the police, they could never find the order because they didn't enter it into NCIC because it wasn't a full order protection. So I don't know. I'm just wondering if other people are seeing this problem. And I felt like it was very frustrating, as you can imagine, for my victim. It's a very dangerous situation for people that are in the middle of a divorce which is one of those kind of escalating factors. I don't know if this is I mean, what I had all these temporary orders, but if I'd had like something that looked like the order of protection that my victim could have had, like that's what I needed. And she never had that to give to law enforcement. So I don't know. Has anyone else had this issue come up? Silence.
This is Ashley Parker. I have had that problem come up in several of my counties. I focus in Decatur, Hardin, and McNairy counties. And what I've started doing is when they do that, I still have them ask the judge to still complete the order of protection form. And then under like the other portion on the order of protection, I just have maybe modified through the divorce. And it's worked in a couple of my cases, but it's been tricky. I do have several that also just get continued out. And I have some that get continued out until the criminal case is resolved as well. So they don't really have a final order in those either.
And, you know, if the court says, and then, you know, the other problem is there, you know, for purposes of convicting them of possession of a weapon, like let's say they get caught with a weapon, these temporary orders of protection are not full orders of protection for purposes of 19 USC, you know, the federal guidelines, which is what is required in our statute. So that's another issue, in my opinion, that comes up, you know, with trying to hold these offenders accountable, you know, for violations of order of protection and for possession of a weapon. If there are these temporary orders of protection that are, you know, continued indefinitely, it's really problematic in my opinion. And the other problem is, you know, I don't have anything to do with the orders of protection, you know, and you have all these victims that are getting divorces and their divorce attorneys are just filing these notices and they don't look, for purposes of law enforcement, verifying them. That's nearly impossible. And so what would happen is these victims would get, you know, this victim, and I've had this with another case, they would get a stalking warrant, but it really should be aggravated stalking because there's a court order in place. But because law enforcement was not able to verify it, they don't give them a warrant for a felony, which, you know, the bond would be different. I mean, there's a lot of issues that, you know, come into play. So I don't know what the solution is. I really don't. I wish, you know, in my perfect world, we wouldn't be able to extend ex parte orders of protection indefinitely. Like that to me would be the solution. I mean, the statute says you shall have a hearing, but we're just not doing it. And I know it's not just my county. So I don't know. Just a thought.
We're definitely not doing it within that 15-day requirement of the law. I mean, we have ex partes that are continued with the criminal case until, you know, 6 months, 8 months later. During COVID, it was even over a year that we saw. Definitely a problem.
Yeah, Sarah, I'm not hearing that consistently across the districts, but it's going to vary, you know, and as you know, I mean, some districts and some counties aren't, you know, they don't have that issue. They deal with, you know, them as they come up, they handle them, they have the hearings, but then some don't. And it really, really varies. We have really tried to hone in on the education on this with the judges on both the sessions and the trial level, that, hey, we need to make sure that they know what they're supposed to be doing. But of course, I'm not in every county to see exactly how it, you know, what they are doing on the bench. But, you know, we're really trying with that to make sure that they are at least aware, you know, of what the requirements are. I do know that the 15-day requirement for the hearing, that has been an issue. I mean, we are aware of that.
And in my jurisdiction, the way they couch it, because you know, I used to work in Nashville. In Nashville, if we had a preliminary hearing on a criminal case, if there was an adjacent criminal case, we would just ask them to bring over the order of protection and hear it all together. They do not do that in my jurisdiction. The defense bar has lobbied the judges such that the judges are like, well, we don't want defendants to have to testify in an order of protection hearing because they have a right to remain silent. And so we're violating their rights if we go ahead and have the full order hearing. I mean, what I would love is if, you know, to the extent that we could educate the judges, you know, kind of, especially if you're going to go ahead and grant a no contact order in a divorce, why can't you just go ahead and have the hearing and, you know, grant the order of protection? I mean, if you're gonna say no contact, let's just do the full order. Then law enforcement can find it. You know, that's my concern is that law enforcement is having trouble verifying these, you know, kind of wishy-washy, you know, chancery orders that are temporary, ex parte orders of protection. But again, I don't know what the solution is. I mean, I guess if in our next, any more training we do in the future regarding orders of protection, maybe we could address that piece.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah, and
gonna.
I just wanted to add, Sarah, I think the other danger is obviously that they don't have the full order and that it doesn't have the protection that for the individual to relinquish their firearms, which we know is a whole other situation of that not actually happening in implementation. But it's something that, at least in Davidson County, we've been trying to get those hearings separated, just trying to, you know, get order protection hearings out of our general sessions court so that they're not so commonly linking with the criminal case. But it's been a pretty big struggle.
Yeah, I'm going to note that for, especially with our trial judge training on a divorce issue, the sessions, and, you know, actually Judge Scott could probably talk about it just a little bit, how it occurs, you know, with her and on the sessions court. But, and I know Judge McMillan is not here from Chancery Court, but I'm going to, I made a note. Let me see what we can do on that.
We have a separate domestic violence docket, so most of the time we put the order of protection with the criminal charge on that docket because we do have procedures in place where, you know, it's not a busy courtroom and the domestic violence victims can be separated from the perpetrator. And usually, as part of the criminal charge, the perpetrator will go ahead and agree to the order of protection as part of the disposition of the criminal charge. And so very rarely do we actually ever have hearings. If there's no criminal charges attached to the order of protection, or if there's not a criminal charge related to the reason for the order of protection, then those go through Chancery, so they get heard quicker and the process is smoother. So the General Sessions Court and our Chancery Court try to work together to best serve the victims most efficiently and effectively. So that's kind of how we've combated the problem in Haywood County.
They're doing that, Sarah, in Scott County as well. If the order of protection, if they'll agree to the order of protection and go under it, they do, but otherwise they continue it until the criminal charges have been disposed of.
Thank you so much. Michelle, I'm not sure if you have any other comments or if there's any other questions at this point.
I don't. I'm going to follow up on Sarah's concern though within our office.
Thank you so much, Michelle. We really appreciate it. And thank you, Judge Scott and Sarah, for jumping in there. And yeah, we'll make sure to get back to you soon. So now we're going to hear from our training and education co-chair, Ashley Parker, on the training and education report. Oh, Ashley, oh, you're muted.
Okay, sorry. I'm used to using Teams and the mute button's in a different spot. Okay, so for December 13th, there was the BIPS recertification, BIPS program directors and facilitators that had 17 participants. On January the 9th, the Elder Abuse with Metro Development and Housing Authority for Vine Hill residents had 16 participants. On January the 10th, Advanced DV training with Child Protective Services Academy had 22 participants. On January the 22nd, Domestic Violence 101, the Nashville chapter had 23 participants. On January the 24th, Beauty and the BIPS program directors and facilitators had 24 participants. On February the 27th, Domestic Violence and Child Abuse training with the Juvenile and General Sessions judges had 167 participants. Also on February the 27th, 3D, a deep dive into domestic violence with the juvenile and general sessions judges, had 108 participants. And on February the 28th, teaching sexual respect in a BIP class with the BIPs and program directors and facilitators had 22 participants, with a total of 399 participants in all.
Thank you so much, Ashley. We really appreciate it. Does anyone have any questions for the committee? Okay, perfect. So we already heard from Sarah Davis about the Standards and Rule Committee. And we look forward to anyone who's interested or in attending in the future on that. So please let us know if you're interested. And now we will have the election of our Assistant Secretary and Treasurer to fill this position. On January 17th, 2024, Secretary Fox sent out an email to everyone about the vacancy, and this position will expire after the election today. It will expire on June 30th, 2024. And that's when we will have our next round of elections for the 2024-2025 year. Currently, Chief Felix Vest is the only member who has expressed interest in this position. Secretary Fox, is this still correct?
Yes, Madam Chair, that is correct.
Okay, at this time, do we have any nominations for the position, or is there anyone else who would like to serve as the Assistant Secretary and Treasurer?
I'd like to make a motion for Felix Vest to be our Secretary Treasurer.
Thank
I'll
you.
second that.
Thank you very much. It's been approved and seconded. And unless there are any other persons interested in participating, we will go ahead and have a vote. I'll just wait for a moment just to ensure that there's no one else interested. Okay. It's been moved and properly seconded. And with that, Secretary Fox, we will go ahead and vote.
Councilmember Constilio Young,
Yes.
thank you. Councilmember Curtis,
Aye.
Councilmember Sarah Davis,
Yes.
Councilmember Frog,
Yes.
Madam Chair Puppenthal,
Yes.
Councilmember Sue Jones, Councilmember McDevitt,
Yes.
thank you. Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Councilmember Parker,
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves,
Yes.
thank you. Councilmember Scott,
Yes.
Councilmember Vest,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. Madam Chair, that concludes the votes for the Assistant Secretary, Assistant Treasurer position through June 30th, 2024.
Thank you. And with that, the motion is approved. Congratulations, Chief Vest. We're very excited to have you on the executive committee, and we look forward to talking with you in May. And
Well,
now,
thank you. Thank everybody for your vote.
thank you. We appreciate it, and we appreciate your interest, and we're very excited to have you on the council. It's been great getting to know you so far, and so you're going to be great. We're very excited about it. So next up on the agenda is the legislative update, and we have Heather Michelle here with us today. She has been invited by Secretary Fox to give us updates on bills that are relevant to domestic violence or sexual violence. So please join me in welcoming Heather Michelle.
Thank you. And thanks, Tina, or whoever threw that up there. I wanted you all to be able to see this report as we pulled some of the bills out. Legislative session is full speed ahead. Committees are starting to shut down, so things are moving quickly this year. We are tracking over 100 bills for the coalition, so I'm not going to go over all of those. I'll just pull some of the big ones out. I first did want to mention that the coalition hosted the Coffee and Conversation series this year up at the legislature. We partnered with the Sexual Assault Center, who did the Sexual Assault 101, the YWCA, who did the Domestic Violence 101, and the Family Safety Center. Becky Bullard did the training on human trafficking and domestic violence intersections. So just wanted to mention that real quick. We also are prioritizing 3 bills before I start pulling the other ones out this year. Danielle's Law, which is passing through the House and the Senate, will extend the civil statutes of limitations for survivors of sexual assault to 3 years with police report. I'm sorry, 3 years without a police report, 5 years with a police report. So that just gives a longer statutes of limitations on the civil side. We are doing another increase for the rape kit reimbursement bill from $1,000 to $1,500. And that bill will start moving next week. And then we are also working to extend the 48-hour reporting requirement for victims' compensation. So those are kind of our priorities, but let's go ahead and jump into this list. The first one that I have to pull out, on page 3, Senate Bill 1655, Senator Campbell and Rep. Freeman are bringing the third-party dispossession form. This is a bill that, you know, they bring every year to talk about affidavits for signing over any weapons for a third-party dispossession. It has not passed, but I want to highlight that as a bill that is a continuing conversation every year. It deals with those dispossession forms that you guys were mentioning earlier. A little further down, Senate Bill 1775, the Home Address Confidentiality Program for Victims. This is Elaine Davis. It is set for the House floor Monday, and it expands the way applicants apply for the Home Address Confidentiality Program, including moving to a new address unknown to the offender and not previously identified in public record. All right. Page 4, Senate Bill 1953. This is Senator Gardenhire and Rep. Bolso's, which is the harassment definition. I just looked at this while we were on the call. It's really interesting. It's just changing the definition of harassment from what used to be the conduct directed toward a victim that includes but is not limited to repeated, continuing, unconsented contact that a reasonable person would cause a reasonable person to suffer emotional distress, and that emotional distress occurred. It's just adding in the definition. The conduct is committed with reckless disregard for whether the victim will suffer emotional distress and the victim suffers that emotional distress as a result. So it's adding in that reckless conduct on the behalf of the defendant. That bill is set for next week and has not been heard in the Senate yet. On page 5, one of the biggest bills this year is this GPS device for domestic violence abusers. This is also a bill that we see every year presented to the legislature, usually has a very large fiscal note. Alex Yoon, I don't know, some of you on this call may have worked with him and his story with his family. He is working with Rep. Doggett and Senator Rose on this bill. It is set for House Finance and placed behind the budget. So I am assuming, I have not heard that this will be funded. It does have a lot of support in the House. This would require GPS monitoring as a condition of bail if the alleged victim is a domestic abuse survivor. It also requires notification to the victims. It's had a lot of conversation and media attention this year. But again, with that going behind the budget, I'm not aware of any funding mechanism in place for that. Also, I know there are a lot of other people on the call who are involved in the legislature with Michelle, Becky, Sharon, anybody else that wants to jump in if you have any other updates is welcomed. On page 6, you'll see the Senate Bill 2060. That is the extension of civil statutes of limitation for sexual assault. And we are moving with that one through the House and the Senate. Page 7, Senate Bill 2277. This is the Registry for Persons Convicted of Domestic Assault. This is Kumar, Representative Kumar and Senator Massey. I believe Jennifer has spoken with Representative Kumar about this. He brought this bill. I think he has a neighbor that brought this issue to him. TBI has concerns with implementation and how they would be able to run this registry. It is not moving as of right now. I'm assuming because of the concerns that were brought early in the session. There is an amendment floating around on this. It is not going to be publicly available yet because they have not run it through committee, but the amendment would just limit the persons eligible for this registry to people, I think it's a persistent offender, someone with multiple, I'm trying to remember the term, someone with multiple DV convictions. So it would limit that to people with more than one DV conviction. Also, we have Senate Bill 2500 expands the definition of crime relative to victims' rights. And this is also on page 7, Senate Bill 2500, which includes a violation of an order of protection, a restraining order, or no contact order. It says it's broadly captioned, so I will need to see if there's an amendment filed. It is not moving at the moment, just something that we're keeping an eye on. Sorry, y'all, lots of bills. Page 9. This is a big one that we're focusing on this year. This is called the Failure to Protect Law, right there at the top, Senate Bill 2662. Failure to protect. And what this is doing is increasing the penalty from a Class A misdemeanor to a D felony for parents that knowingly expose their child or fails to protect their child from severe abuse. This is a big issue for domestic violence groups, as you can imagine. We've met with the bill sponsors. Jennifer has done some great work connecting with national coalitions to get their talking points on failure to protect legislation. It really is harmful and potentially can criminalize survivors who can't escape the violent situations they're in. You know, when we met with a sponsor, their main thing was children should not live in domestic violence homes, like homes that have domestic violence, which no one wants a child to be in that situation. We talked about prevention and getting more resources for survivors in these situations to have safe places to go and the financial ability to leave. And it didn't really hit home with the sponsor. She basically said this was her way of doing prevention work, was to criminalize people with a felony. So we have asked if she would be open to a language amendment that would carve out or create an exception, create a defense for victims of violence. I've reviewed these defenses. There's a spreadsheet for all the failure to protect statutes across the country. Texas is the only one that has specific language to a victim of violence. Most other states that have any kind of defense speak specifically to a defendant's apprehension that intervening would escalate violence and cause substantial harm to the person or the child, and so therefore they don't intervene. That's the most common defense language that we see. They plan on moving forward with this bill. It also has a fiscal note, so I don't think it will pass. They've said it won't pass, but it is an important conversation, I think, for the domestic violence groups to be plugged in on and at least speaking to those concerns of the impact that that would have on survivors. So we are going to offer some amendment language to her, at least continue those conversations. And that one is up next week in the House and the following week in the Senate. And I believe Jennifer sent a sign-on letter too, if anybody wants to read those talking points. On the same page, we are tracking all the transportation of illegal aliens, undocumented people, because this one is into the state. There's another one that you will see. We are just watching these. If any of the domestic violence centers are working with U visa applicants or survivors who do not have status, these bills could present problems on that. Then on page 10, you have HJR 94 is the Marcy's Law that is moving through the legislature. Page 11 on the family law, we are looking and following all of the joint legal custodies, equally sharing parenting time. Those bills, the one right below it too, Senate Bill 1690, have been taken off notice. We've had good conversations with Representative Garrett, Representative Bolso, and some other of the civil attorneys on that committee who have a lot of problems with these. So these were recently taken off notice, and we were working on those and having conversations early in the year. Right underneath that, you have the lifetime order of protection, Senate Bill 1699 with Rose and Lambert. This has passed in the House, I think, all the way. Or maybe it just says passed with amendment. It is up next week in Senate. Oh yeah, it's engrossed on the House side. And this would expand eligibility to victims of aggravated stalking, especially aggravated stalking and felony harassment for lifetime OPs. Michelle, I know you had mentioned this on the OP when you were discussing orders of protection. And I was wondering how this would change if it changes the form. It says it must include a statement of maximum penalty that be imposed for violating such an order. Is that the change that we're expecting on the form? I don't know if you had that offhand. I was just curious how this would impact the forms, if it does.
So with the form, since it's expanding the eligibility to harassment, aggravated stalking, and especially aggravated stalking, we would just indicate that those statutes on there. So we would just need to make sure we updated it so it would reflect that it includes those now as being that you're eligible for that lifetime order protection.
Right, I guess that has to be on the form. That makes
Yeah.
sense. This bill has no not significant fiscal impact, so I would imagine this would pass, has a ton of support, and it's just expanding on that lifetime order of protection. And then I'm sorry, you guys, I don't know if we have a hard stop at 11. I know we're running over. We want to keep going through. I just have a handful more, or would you like me to just send this out later?
You can briefly review it. Yeah,
I just want to be respectful of everybody's time.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
On page 12, we have Senate Bill 1905, order of protection to remain in effect during an appeal. This is an appeal to a circuit or chancery court unless otherwise ordered by the general sessions judge or official. And so the first time this will be heard is next week in House Criminal Justice.
Hey, Heather. So this one, I had told our Order Protection Committee, the AOC was working on this with the sponsors because there is an amendment that's going on it, and basically it's taking out reference to general sessions judge because, those are heard in trial level and session, so we didn't want to limit it to that. But the amendment starts out saying unless it expires by operation of law, and then including the rest of the language, but taking out the sessions court reference, just because we didn't want that bill to conflict with the 1 year limit on order protection. So because they weren't going in and changing that in the rest of the code, we didn't want there to be two different time frames possibly. So there is an amendment going on that just to clarify that it would remain in effect unless it had otherwise expired. But I think it would give, if nothing else, it does kind of give notice that, hey, make sure you go back and ask for your OP to be extended if you're in an appeal situation. So.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Senate Bill 2581, requirements of marriage license. We are watching all the marriage license bills because the coalition gets funding through marriage. One thing I remembered from my old back in the day work with the coalition was that we were funded by marriage license fees. So we are tracking all those bills to make sure no amendments get put on to redirect any of that funding. Senate Bill 2627, continuing education courses on domestic violence or other child abuse required for judges. This is a bill, I believe this is Gabriella's law that the YW brought to our attention with Senator Massey. It's not moving, but as everybody has kind of discussed on this call, desperately needed.
So I will jump in on this one too. This, it's Abriel's Law, and it's the last year they had passed a version requiring certain education for judges. That is all the bill did last year because some of the other provisions just didn't quite get vetted out in time, and would have changed several court procedures that we just really couldn't reconcile at the time. So we've been working very, very heavily with them over the fall and the summer and fall, and there will be an amendment on that bill. So I believe Alexander will be filing it, but we have an amendment on that.
Michelle, can you, so are they doing that? You said something passed last year. Are they doing these trainings with the judges, or are we
Yes.
still in the formation process?
No, we started. And actually we've been doing, the thing is with the training with the judges, they have every year, both the sessions judges and the trial level have domestic violence training each year. It's usually in their fall training sessions, but we went ahead and added several, and you saw on the training report that Ashley gave earlier that just last week, actually this week, she got the numbers so quickly from this week, but the juvenile judges and general sessions judges had sessions, domestic violence sessions that were a result of that bill from last year. So
Okay. Maybe we can connect, Michelle, offline. I have some other groups that I work with where we've had general sessions judges reach out and ask us about their ability to use GPS monitoring for OPs and DV situations, and they were just not clear of the law and were asking us to bring bills. So I would love to circle up with you on some of that.
That would be great. Definitely let me know, send me email, and I will we'll connect on that, because if there's some training that we could add that you're hearing about, we're happy to add it. I mean, that's not an issue.
Wonderful. Thank you. Page 13, Senate Bill 493 is the relocation of undocumented people in the state by agencies, business, or persons. This, I think, is the one there was one that was tied to financial gain. I may not have pulled that one out, but there is a transportation bill that criminalizes agencies for transporting undocumented people for financial gain. So we are keeping an eye on that one too. It is moving in the House. This one is set for the floor next week. It's not moving in the Senate yet. And then on page 14, Senate Bill 2413, criminal injuries compensation ineligibility for a person who is an accessory after the fact. This is Senator Lamar and Rep. Harris. I'm not sure how this would, if the DV coalitions have an opinion on this, or if if there's anybody that's working with survivors who, this may impact their eligibility for criminal injuries compensation. I'm just flagging it there in case you all need to review that. Page 15, Senate Bill 2433, that's the forensic medical exams that we were trying to up that reimbursement. The last time there was an increase, I worked with the coalition back in 2014, 2015, when we passed the increase from $750 to $1,000. So it's been a decade almost since those have been increased. So we are going to start the conversation and try to get that moved up a little more. And I think that is the last one I have highlighted there. So if there's anything else that you all are seeing that needs to be prioritized or labeled as our top tier concern, I'm happy to make those adjustments. We sent the bill report out this morning, to Jennifer. So hopefully she can share those with you all. And if there's
Can I
anything
ask a question, Heather?
Mhm.
So we've been having a little problem in my jurisdiction with our main provider for sexual assault examinations has chosen not to do it anymore.
Is this St. Thomas Ascension?
St. Thomas Ascension, and we're trying to fix that. But it's been kind of a complete disaster because we had one place that was doing all of them for years and now they're not. So we're having to transport they're transporting victims in Ubers supposedly to Nashville from Murfreesboro. And my concern is we have a lot of victims. I mean, we had since December, we had 10 victims that came in, all referred to take an Uber to Nashville, and only 2 of them went. So
Oh,
you
wow.
see the chilling effect that this is having on our, we're working on it. But my concern, it has to do with the financial coverage. So when they go into St. Thomas is doing a physical, they are saying, well, we'll check them out physically and make sure everything's okay. We just won't do the rape kit. So then they want to send them to sexual assault center. So my concern is that these victims, and we've discussed this in our start, but I don't know, we haven't really figured out what's going on, are going to get billed for coming to St. Thomas, getting checked out, but not getting the rape kit. Do you know if the way it's being covered right now, victims will be reimbursed for all of those visits? Do you know?
Well, as you know, anyone seeking a rape kit at a hospital or a center should not be charged for seeking that rape kit. I also heard of this. The SART had talked about it. It got back to me. I reached out to the lobbyist for St. Thomas Ascension and said, hey, what's going on? We're hearing people are getting cleared, medically cleared, and then being referred to the sexual assault center. People aren't getting rape kits. So their lobbyist went to Ascension, had a conversation with them, got back to me last week and said they don't have sane nurses available there, that one of them is
Not
on
true. It's just not true, but that's a whole
one was
nother.
on maternity leave and the other one left the job. So they were interested in SANE training and asked if we could connect them with someone who does the SANE training. I spoke to SAC about that yesterday, but I'm also hearing the same thing, Sarah, that that's not how it's happening, but
And that's not, may not be necessarily a conversation for this meeting,
Mhm.
but I mean, I just didn't know if you knew, so you think that if they go two places, if a victim goes two places, that it will be covered under that, under,
I think the statute says that if you're seeking a rape kit, a victim has a constitutional right and shall not be charged. So if they are being charged through this kind of roundabout referral thing, we should definitely, please let me know. And
okay, I will if I find out that's happening.
yeah, please let me know and we will get to the bottom of that. We will start digging in because that's, people should have the right to seek a rape kit free of charge. So. Yes. Thank you for mentioning that too.
Thank you very much, Heather. We really appreciate it. I will try to fast track the rest of the meeting because we do have Regina presenting today. Tina, Secretary Fox, do we have any announcements?
Yes, we do have some brief announcements and I will be brief with them. Just wanted to give the names of those members whose terms are expiring. We've already reached out to them individually. That's Judge Greg McMillan, Lena Roberts, and Ashley Parker. We would love for you all to retain your position, so please reach out to your agency heads. I am going to push out that information to them on next Monday to give them enough time to answer back for us. And then the Senator Tommy Burke's Academy is June 3rd through the 7th. So we have two important conferences coming up in June, the BIPS annual conference, which has already been acknowledged, and then a Senator Tommy Burke's Academy. I do know that the slots for facilitators for the Academy has been filled. However, the coalition is also having an annual conference, Stronger Together, that's September the 16th through the 17th. And so if you would like to attend and or speak at that conference as a facilitator, please reach out to me and I can give the information to our training director. Just want to finally say thank you to each committee member. Over the last year, we have been on a roller coaster with so many members resigning, but I do appreciate the stability that you all have given me and the support over this last year. I think that we are really onto something great and I just appreciate your support, and I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge the support that has been lended to me over this, particularly last year as we were in transition. So thank you again. Madam Chair, that concludes my announcements.
Thank you, Secretary Fox. We appreciate you as well. Thank you for all of your support for the council. And then the next item on our agenda is public comments. As a reminder, these comments need to be submitted to Secretary Fox at least 2 weeks before the meeting. Secretary Fox, can you confirm whether or not we have any new public comments to address?
no known public comments. Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it. And finally, we get to the professional highlights section. Regina McDevitt, she is the Executive Director of the City of Chattanooga Family Justice Center, and she will be presenting on the important work that she does in Chattanooga. So thank you very much, Regina. We're excited to hear from you today.
Thank you. Can I share my screen, Tina?
Yes, ma'am, you can.
Okay. Excellent. So can everybody see that? I get confused how I have three
Yes.
screens up.
Yes.
So, thank you. I am the executive director here at the Family Justice Center in Chattanooga. I spent just a little bit about me. I spent over 20 years working with our local multi-service agency, providing as the director of victim services, our Rape Crisis Center, our domestic violence programs. And 3 years ago, I had the opportunity to move over here to the Family Justice Center. And I know many of you are familiar with the Family Justice Centers. It is an initiative out of the governor's office in Tennessee, Office of Criminal Justice. And there are currently 14 Family Justice Centers in the state of in the state of Tennessee. It is an international model with family justice centers in over 43 states and 26 countries. So we're just really excited here in Chattanooga to be a part of that. So I've got some pictures because I'm really proud of our center and our staff and the work that we're doing. I have, like I said, been in this field for quite some time. I do a lot of training. I've done some consultant work with the OVC and TTAC and the National Council on Accreditation as a peer reviewer. In addition to serving on this board, I serve on the board of the Tennessee Coalition, as well as here locally, the Park Ridge Health System Board of Trustees, which has been a great opportunity for us as an organization here. As I said, I came here about 3 years ago. This is a picture of our building in October. So we make it up really pretty and light it up. Some of our partners, so we actually have, it's kind of a one-stop shop, which I'm not sure how much people know. So I'll just kind of briefly, the Family Justice Center, it's a community-wide collaboration with public and private organizations on site in one location. So we have on-site partners and we have off-site partners. We currently have 12 agencies on site. Our Children's Advocacy Center is our largest, and they provide forensic interviews, exams. They have a counseling center. We also have the district attorney on site providing support to the Children's Advocacy Center. And what I will say about that is before she was officed here at the Family Justice Center, our rate here in Chattanooga of child abuse prosecutions was at about 3%. And in the last year, since Stephanie's come on board and is working so closely with the Children's Advocacy Center, that number has increased to 38%. So we are significantly seeing how agencies collaborating and working together really can make a difference. We have Child Protective Services on site, of course, our legal aid of East Tennessee. We have McNabb Counseling Center on site. So a lot of these agencies do wonderful work. We have 2 human trafficking agencies on site. Human trafficking has really been a hot topic here in in Tennessee in general, but definitely here in Chattanooga. And we've developed an anti-trafficking coalition. We have brought our trafficking agencies together that are doing that work to support victims. So a lot of really cool things are happening here in Chattanooga with our partners and the work that they do and that we're able to do through them. So our basic 3 areas of work that we do is around assessment and intervention. We have navigators that meet with survivors that come into our center. Of course, no services are, no one is charged for any services that we provide, but We do assessment and intervention. So our navigators assess for safety. They do safety planning. And then we connect survivors to either in-house agencies or agencies in the community that can support them. We do kind of a warm handoff, and then we follow up to make sure that they were connected, and then we continue to do that over the course of our follow-ups with them. We do have navigators at court, so we do court advocacy and navigation within the court system here. Not just at Hamilton County, but some of our municipality courts we also go to. We most recently have applied for a grant to maybe do more work in the courts and some training. So we're kind of excited about where that's going to go. In addition, we have our prevention and education piece, where we started a FJC training institute this year and are providing a lot of local trainings to law enforcement, to community agencies, to the courts. So a lot of stuff's happening there. And then our community partnerships is a huge one as well. And I'll talk about that in a minute. So these are just some of the things that happen on site. We also have a counseling center. We're able to provide counseling to survivors of any type of victimization and trauma. And that program, again, we don't charge, and of course, insurance is not charged as well. And then, of course, our partner services, I mentioned some of our partners. Our workshops, we have staff that are certified in compassion fatigue and mindfulness. And so we've been doing a lot of work with the school system, with police departments, with other organizations here in town. With the city of Chattanooga, we have 27 employees here at City of Chattanooga. So we've really had a really cool opportunity to do some work around that within the community. We're working here at the City of Chattanooga to do a domestic violence in the workplace policy, which we currently as a city do not have one. And so that has been a go for us here just this week. So we're excited about that. So we're able to provide support with a lot of our local partners here, and we really build them up. And we have a speakers bureau utilizing the expertise of the wonderful partners that we have here. With our community partnerships, we have a coordinated community response that it really covers a lot of different disciplines. Out of that coordinated community response alliance, we have multiple task forces that address interfaith response, sexual assault response, that's led by the partnership here. We have a youth and underserved task force. So we have multiple task forces addressing different issues as it relates to domestic violence and family violence in our community. We work with law enforcement on the lethality assessment program here. City of Chattanooga does great. We're working with the sheriff's office to kind of fine tune some of that. And then the municipalities, we've just recently started reaching out to them to kind of bring them on board. So we're looking forward to expanding that. About 80% of the cases that we get referred from the lethality assessment program are indicating strangulation. And so I know that's an area that we've started tracking, and we really feel like there's going to be a need for us to do more around that. We do a high-risk intervention team that has been a real interesting opportunity here in Chattanooga, connecting with law enforcement, the district attorney's office, our DV program, and of course the Family Justice Center legal aid is a part of that. It's a pretty small group, but that has some interesting challenges, but we've been working through that because it really will make a difference once we have it where everyone is good with it. And then these are just some stats from this past year. We've continued to grow. We had about a 37% increase this past year. At this point, we're on track for, I think, a 45% increase this year of the number of people that come through our center. We provided over 121 trainings last year. That includes tabling and other events as well, but that's really important. Of all of the agencies on site, and we try to track this, it's a loose number, but we've impacted over 7,000 people in our community through the work here at the Family Justice Center and the partners that we have. Our staff provided services to 827 folks. And then you can see survivors are reporting that they are connecting to referrals, that they feel like they have increased safety and an increased knowledge of the justice system. So those are some really important things that we're tracking every year. This is a picture of my awesome staff. This is Ashley. She's actually the therapy dog of the Children's Advocacy Center, but we get to play with her sometimes. This group we have 12 total staff, and they do an amazing job with our different initiatives. We actually have an initiative with Tennessee Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence on engaging men and boys in this work. And we're very excited about that. We have a lot of interest generated in the community from men that we've been reaching out to who are leaders. And so it's a CDC grant that the coalition has, and we're excited to be the partners with them on that. We received which again, I'm so proud of the staff. We received the Alexander Hamilton Award from Legal Aid of East Tennessee in 2022. And then also the coalition, our staff, we got the Community Partner of the Year that same year. So again, they do a lot of great things in our community, from outreach to training to services. And so this is what our center looks like. When you walk into the center, we have this beautiful space with a lot of artwork up. We have a big training center on the left-hand side of that first space. But you can see we really want people to feel safe and welcome and comfortable when they come into the center. These are some pictures just of where we provide services. So we have a children's playroom. The kiddos can come in here if mom and dad are talking to our navigators, and they don't necessarily want them to hear that story, and our interns and staff can support the children during that time. We do provide counseling for children through our counseling center, which has been something that we've been working on. Services happen in living rooms, and so typically there are lights, and we use lamps, but they don't take good pictures. So I took a picture of our living room, and people feel comfortable when they're coming in to share their trauma. It gives them an opportunity to share that trauma in a more comfortable way. So we also have a boutique that we offer to all of our partners, as well as the clients who come into our center, and it's for professional clothing. It's very small. We don't have a lot because we don't have a lot of space, but folks can come in and they can, if they're looking for a job, or they're going to court, or they just got a job, they can come in and pick out outfits. And the donations are just beautiful that we receive from the community. The Mayor's Council for Women here supports this initiative, and our partners utilize it, as well as our staff, for clients who have a need. And of course, we are very proud to be able to give this stuff to survivors in our community. And then the last thing here is we have a really nice training space that we offer to the community. We have trainings, events, workshops, meetings in our spaces. We have community spaces that we offer, not just our partners, but just the community in general. And that really helps get the word out, because, obviously people still don't know how to receive services, sometimes where to go. And so we've done a lot of work around that. So anyway, this is who we are. We have just an absolutely amazing staff, and our community is very engaged in this work, and just very proud to be a part of it here, and to sit on the board of the coalition and this board as well. Just being able to make a difference in the community is important to me. I've been doing this a long time, and people either burn out or they just keep doing it, like Stacy. And we just keep on keeping on. And I love doing it. My husband recently retired from the sheriff's office here, so we have a lot of connections that are positive connections in addition to professional stuff. And I have 5 boys, all grown now. My youngest is graduating from I have to tell you this. My youngest is graduating from Carson Newman in May. And he'll be going to graduate school, getting an MBA next year, and he's in sports management. So he's assistant coach there at the school for football, and just very proud of all of my boys, but he's my youngest and my baby. But again, just very, very happy to be here, and thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about our center.
Thank you, Regina. We really appreciate it. And thank you for all the work that you do. Just as a reminder, the remaining meeting dates for 2024 are June 14th, September 13th, and December 6th. And also as another reminder, all of the committee meetings minutes are due no later than Friday, March 15th. Please remember to submit those minutes to Secretary Fox on or before that day. Unless there's any other further questions, thank you all for your time this morning. I apologize about going over, but thank you for sticking with it, and we appreciate all the important work that you do.
Hey, Madam Chair, before we dismiss, I just want
Yes.
to remind the committee members, council members particularly, that our meetings are for 1 hour and a half. It's 11 to 12:30 on the East Coast and 10 until 11:30 on Central Time Zone. So I know we have been getting out early heretofore, but technically our meetings are supposed to last 1.5 hours. And we have Chelsea Leonard on with us. As you all know, Claire Wisely was the program manager for the Office of Criminal Justice Programs. And the Office of Criminal Justice Programs is the program that supports the work that we do in terms of funding. And so wanted to make sure that we recognize Chelsea Leonard, who is the new program manager. So Chelsea, would you like to say anything to the council before we dismiss?
I was just going to say hello. This is my first time attending one. It sounds great, and I'm glad to be on here with you guys and ready to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chelsea, and thank you, Secretary Fox, for the reminder as well. And so with that, our meeting is officially adjourned. It's 11:34 a.m. Thank you all very much, and we look forward to seeing you all this summer.
Thanks.
All right, bye.